The Walt Disney Company has announced a bevy of pricing changes, both up and down at the parks, and we're here to talk about just how insane some of that is, and how we think maybe some of those price increases might be good, and some of them are obviously bad because we don't want to pay any money here on That Park Place. What an intro! Pro is so good at the intros, and I'm over here just shooting from the hip, talking about the things that bother me. We were having a discussion, me and Vash. Vash, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. I actually did particularly like that intro, basically admitting that we're all cheapskates, and I suppose we are, actually, in our
Right.
own way.
Well, that's the funny thing that comes into the discussion when we talk about Walt Disney Company versus any other theme park company. Pricing tends to
Right,
enter into it. When we have that discussion about why Dollywood might be considered the number one theme park in the United States,
very true.
uh, if you say dollar for dollar, all of a sudden it changes everything. Okay,
Yes.
obviously, Walt Disney World has a quote unquote premium experience, but a lot of things come with the expectation of a premium experience. Meanwhile, speaking of the fact that we've had a discussion on That Park Place and on the website, and also on Pro's channel, and also on Valiant Renegade, how the Walt Disney Company seems to be doing this long form experiment, specifically run by Bob Chapek, to see just how much they can get ticket prices up. They've reached the limit, but now they're offering a special ticket offer. For a limited time, children ages 3 to 9 can visit Disneyland for as low as $50 per child. There's some strings attached to this, of course, and that's a great deal. Vash, what you want to venture a guess at how much a regular theme park ticket for a child is right now?
Oh man, I mean, it depends on the day you go, right? It could be as little as $100, depending on the day, and it could be as much as, man, I mean, they just increased ticket prices today.
Yeah.
Probably 170, I want to say. I mean, it's up there.
That's pretty high. So the, the details on this, by the way, if anybody here is wanting to buy tickets, obviously we don't work for the Walt Disney Company, but if you want to
Right.
know about this deal, you can go to the Disney Parks blogs, and they've got you covered. You have to buy them before a specific point this year, and you can't use them until January 8th through March 10th of next year. That's
Right.
2024. So that is the low point in the theme parks. That's generally a good time to visit because people are back in school. The weather's not as fantastic. This is Disneyland. The weather's good most of the year. Florida, it's a
Right.
little bit colder. That
So
being
it
said, I'll take the Florida cold almost any day of the year.
exactly. If you can get the time off, if you can get your kids out of school, if you can bring them down, not too bad. Because of the restriction in terms of the dates that are provided here, that uh, we're probably not going to see $170 tickets be reduced down to 50. This is in the 104 territory in the value days that they have, or tier zero, is what they're calling it now, which is just completely asinine in itself. So look, a decent offer and was released, I want to say, a couple days ago, and now we get huge price increases all across the board, offsetting this completely. But we'll get into this.
Right. Well, that's a great segue. And by the way, there are similar offers on that $50 per child
Right.
rate.
You're,
But
you're probably going to have a lot of 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds be considered
yeah,
nine, by the way.
right. The So going over to WDW News today, they
Right.
do a great job of covering so much. I mean, they really cover a lot. This story by Kyle Salagi.
Right.
I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but prices increased on nearly all food and beverage across the Walt Disney World Resort. So if you're getting into Walt Disney World for cheaper, maybe you're going to feel a little bit looser on spending money. And here we go. I remember paying about $3, I think, for an It's a Kadoozy back in the day from a similar cart to this one. And I got to say, I would love it if they brought those back, but it's not there. And the strawberry fruit bar, which is the economic option here, is $6. I mean, that's theme park pricing, but still, that's that's a lot of money to pay for what is the discount item here. Even the frozen banana is 6.25, more than that.
It
Uh,
is.
what are you
Uh,
going to go for, Vash?
Oh well, those Mickey bars are definitely the favorites, right? So probably going for that. What is it? Six thirty
Six
nine.
fifty.
Six. Oh man.
Oh no,
See,
there's no 39 cents. They go up for the whole quarter.
yeah, they're gonna get all of that, right? That's for sure. I will say, Disney has actually kind of shown restraint when it comes to this in the past. As crazy as it might sound,
Mhm.
if you compare this to like sports stadiums, or other kind of events that that sell, beer or bottles of water or something, they've actually been on the low end of this, but they're rapidly increasing. And I think you're right. I mean, Chapek definitely moved the goalposts when it came to this kind of these price increases, and getting up to that upper limit right there. I remember, this was probably about 5-10 years ago now. The Disney company was comparing itself to a Broadway show, and so they had a survey that they did this with a very large sample size, and what they asked respondents was, here's what you get at a Broadway show versus here's what you get at a theme park, and they listed all of these different attractions and so forth and shows you can actually see, and they compared it. They said, is a theme park worth the same as the admission to a Broadway show? And most respondents said yes. And so that's what they've been kind of targeting. But now we're seeing not just the ticket entry price, but the nickel and diming afterwards, that I think is really kind of irritating people a lot, especially now.
Right. And since we're also talking about nickel and diming, first of all, food in the theme parks versus food at a sporting event. Generally, you can eat before you go into a sporting event. It's not a big
Right.
deal. You're
Yeah.
probably not at a sporting event for the entire day, but you might be. It's
Yep.
possible.
Yep.
I don't know a lot about the sports ball. Um, Another thing that is also increasing in price,
Right.
according to Scott Gustin, who this looks like it might be the Disney Parks blog,
Right.
but uh, Disney is increasing their parking to $30 a day for a car or a motorcycle. I'm not going to comment on all of these other ones. I will say that right now, I think Universal Orlando and SeaWorld charge a similar price. It's just yet another increase here. So they're raising prices on everything. I think they're feeling the heat, feeling the squeeze of not having many people in the parks.
Yeah.
We've got someone in the parks right now that keeps sending us photos of empty portions of the parks that they're visiting. That happens. I'm not saying. I mean, even a crowded park has those empty places on occasion, especially Muppets Vision 3D. That courtyard there can. There's nothing there, so that can be very empty. Now that being
Right.
said, I think I think this right here is where they get pass holders, obviously, or at least the low level pass holders, and it's just yet another price increase.
It is, and it's like you kind of alluded to, at a time when people are starting to reconsider going to the Disney parks. Right, the demand has kind of waned, and especially as inflation continues to surge on. Obviously, there are some things going on internationally that might see maybe gas increase, right? Or
Mhm.
the cost of oil or the cost of transportation go up. And so this kind of aggressive strategy to, increase parking, for example, I mean, that really does add up. At Disneyland, it's even worse. It's going from $30 to $35 per day at minimum, and then obviously $5 increases across the board when it comes to premium, or even staying at your hotel, which Walt Disney World resort visitors don't have to worry about. So it's just all this. It's just really kind of chipping in here, and
Right. Well, of course, they would never increase the prices of of the resorts there at the Walt Disney World Resort, would they?
oh well, it's that's a regular thing,
Right.
Jonas. Here's
That
what
is
you
the
do.
most price elastic part. That's the part that people don't notice because they won't even
Oh
tell
yes,
you how much they're charging until you tell them the specific day that you are going, and they don't unlock them until I think is it 6 months? It's a 6 month window, right? That you could
correct.
book them out.
And that price elasticity, it's a good term that you use there, because what they'll usually do is they'll jack up the rates super high, and even if it's beyond the threshold that customers will pay, they can very easily apply discounts or offers and stuff like that, make them promotional pieces, get people out there. I mean, it really is a racket for sure.
Well, speaking of things that might be a racket, here's at least one more price increase. Who knows? We might think of another here. We're
Right?
not reaching very hard to find this, but as we were talking about the pricing situation, this came up
Sure.
again. WDW News Today. You guys are the best. Thank you. This one from Katie Francis. Genie Plus price is raised at the Disneyland Resort. It now has a $30 minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's if you buy in advance. They're telling you, hey, you can get if you do buy in advance and don't actually examine the crowd conditions that day, right? Which a lot of people do. They'll go there and they'll decide whether or not they actually need it. They want you to definitely pre-buy this. And here's the thing: they haven't really stated what the upper limit might be. Now,
Oh, they'd
I
never do that. They would never do that because they know right now that they're not in a position that they can say, "Oh, we won't charge more than this," because they might
right.
have to charge more than this.
I
The
think
other thing is that, of course, the parks. You'll have Disney Plus reach its Genie Plus. Too many pluses.
too
You'll
many
have Genie
pluses.
Plus reach its limits for the day, or as we've reported here on that Park Place,
Right.
that Genie Plus broke the other day, and they actually had to issue refunds.
Uh,
It was the highest price that it had ever been for the lead up to the Columbus Day weekend, as
right.
high as July 4th of last year.
Yeah.
Sorry, July 4th of this year, and they ended up having to issue refunds. Now, of course, in classic Disney fashion, they had people wait in a line to go get those refunds, and
Of
there was
course.
no skip line function uh, in order to get past that one. We
That
all
wasn't
have that
included in the Genie
question.
Plus. Yeah.
It's considered trade secrets. What the ratio of Genie Plus Lightning Lane people to standby line, what
Correct.
ratio they let in. But
Correct.
we've seen those famous photos, especially Braden from Mickey Views, of
Right.
completely empty standby queues and Lightning Lane out into the far reaches of the park. So it raises a huge question of, is this worth it? Well, it better be worth it if you get it, because it's another $30 per person. So, by the way, ages 3 to 9, $50 ticket. That is a that's $30 on top of it. That's
It
what are we
is.
looking at here? That is a 60% increase in ticket price if you decide to get Genie Plus.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably what they're hoping that people will actually will do. We have to also look at this in terms of the financials, right? This is the start of fiscal year 2024, right? October 1st being that
Yep.
kickoff, and so previous entries into the fiscal years have seen dramatic year over year growth, and the only really way that you can get that from the parks division is if you do increase prices like this, like we're seeing with food and beverage, but also annual passes, for example, right? I believe the renewal rate for Disneyland went from $50 to the lowest tier to every single tier above that, $150 increases across the
Yeah,
board there.
that's right. We're not going to bring in another article for this, but yes, they just
But
increased prices on all of the passes.
everything across the board, and this is an attempt to show, oh hey, look, we've got growth in this segment, here you go. When it comes to Genie Plus, it's interesting. Obviously, it's been a big revenue driver, Chapek's darling, let's say, and that it's been largely touted by investors as this kind of big thing. I believe there's like a 50% buy-in on Genie Plus.
Mm.
Now those numbers are actually kind of lagging a little bit. This is really interesting, Jonas, and this is a kind of a whole nother can of worms, but I'll briefly mention this. Lightning Lane usage is a little bit soft. I'm sorry, Lightning Lane buy-in is a little bit soft,
Mhm.
but Lightning Lane usage is actually over. What's happening there? Well, that comes down to the disability access system that people are using and not necessarily opting into Genie Plus. So they're getting a little bit more stringent when it comes to that end, and then they're charging more on the front end here with this Genie Plus price increase. Now,
Mhm.
Jonas, I look at Genie Plus, right? the buy-in is way too big. You can't have 50%. If you have everybody in the lightning lane, it's not really lightning at that point. This is where the
Hmm.
Braden kind of thing comes from, right? Well, I mean, they really should increase the price dramatically and maybe reduce that down to maybe
Yeah.
like 25% buy-in. I think that's a much better strategy for everybody
It's almost
involved.
as if you knew where I was going to go with this. That's fantastic.
you did
So
you did allude to this, but
I yeah,
you know,
I don't want to have such a negative video about Disney and then say Universal is doing it right. But when you look at this right here, this is
right?
Universal's Express Pass page,
Yes,
and this isn't even premium Express Pass. This
right.
is regular Express Pass, and the people who work in the theme park don't even get these. If you get a guest pass from one of the cast members there. I don't know if they call their people cast members or what, but
Team
90
members,
bucks
team
or
members.
$20 at Volcano Bay, which is technically a theme park, but it's a water park. We're gonna say it's a water park, not a theme park.
It's a water theme park. Yeah, I don't know. It's what their Universal's marketing director
Right. I'm
touted in.
thinking that making this special and making this expensive
Sure.
is probably what makes it actually a good value because
Yes.
like you said, it increases the price, therefore it increases the it decreases the number of people in the park who have it, and
Correct.
therefore you know what you're getting when you get it. Genie Plus right now, the strategy seems to be let's keep this price low enough that everybody thinks they probably ought to because it's so low. So you're making a bet against yourself that it's going to be a bad day at the park unless you get it.
Right. It's really interesting. With if you have too many people in the system, then it's not really a value for those people who actually get it, like you said here, Jonas. But it's also obviously bad for the people who are in the standby as well, because you have to wait through so many lightning lanes, especially when those attractions end up going down as they often do. Take for example, Rise of the Resistance, right? That does about 1,500 people per hour. If you have an extended downtime with that attraction, which you often do on both coasts, well, you have to service the lightning lanes first. The people who actually paid to be in that line and were paying for that service. So you have to advance the ratio, right? So if you do 1,500 people per hour, maybe you go with a 99-to-1 ratio in that instance. Well, if there are 15 people in line, that's an hour wait for those people in standby, and obviously not the best experience for people in the lightning lane queue as well. If you reduce how many people are on the system by maybe charging more, then you are in effect increasing value. Now, Universal has the 1-2 punch with this, which I think is really interesting. They include Universal Express with their deluxe kind of deluxe tier hotels.
Yeah.
So that becomes now an incredible value and a big incentive to stay on property. I am so surprised, shocked even, that Disney hasn't really done this themselves. It's a no brainer, especially with the prices being what they are. Polynesian $700 a night, right? Contemporary $700 a night versus the Portofino at Universal. It's usually like $500 a night. You
Yeah.
include Express Pass in there. That's a tremendous value if you're staying with four
Right.
people.
It's even better for families that have
Right.
lots of people staying in one room.
Exactly.
So I do think the solution here is raising the price of Genie Plus to the point where it becomes cost prohibitive to get it.
Right.
Now, that being said, I would prefer that they just do away with this altogether. Honestly,
I agree.
I like the idea. I like the days where okay, Fast Pass was fun. They had full control over that system. Oh nope, the paper kiosks are down, so Fast Pass is down. It was much more fun. You would just run and get your thing. It'd be a fun little mission in the park. But this whole thing of Fast Pass Plus, where you stare at your phone all day, and Genie Plus, they want you in your face in that phone so they can guide you throughout the whole park. And Universal has shown signs that they're doing the same thing. We've covered that patent here on that park place. Vash, you did a great job with it.
Mhm.
But one thing that the standard visit to Universal does right now well is keeping you out of your phone and making it so the lines are what the lines are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and when you have less people on the system, those lines, they move. They really do. And ops over there with their team members is actually pretty efficient at that. But how are you gonna? I mean, here's the problem, Jonas. How are you gonna convince investors? Hey, look, listen, we have 60,000 people in a park like Magic Kingdom, and 30,000 of those are buying Genie Plus at $30 or whatever the price is. How are you going to convince investors to say, let's do away with this?
Yeah.
You just can't do it, right? And
Right,
so it's
because it would be an immediate hit to their revenue. So
absolutely
I think that's probably because Disney has made this deal with Wall Street that they are not going to reduce revenue in any way that they can consciously do it,
correct.
because it'll end up coming up on the at the next shareholders meeting,
Right.
which it'll come up at the next shareholders meeting anyways. Because things are not quite healthy at the Disney company right now, but more on that another day.
Oh, yes.
But thank you very much, Vash, for that very informative conversation. I always appreciate, because I can bring these ideas, but you have the deep knowledge of the theme park. So thank you so much for being here today to bring us through it. For our audience, if you want to interact with us online, there are social media handles above us, and there's probably some links in the description below us. Or like, share, subscribe, all those things. It really helps the channel out. And don't forget to come back another day for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com for all the news that should be fun. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.